The massive space station hung in orbit around Kepler Prime like a metal moon. Inside its gleaming corridors, Ambassador Jake Morrison walked toward the council chambers with steady steps. His black uniform bore the simple blue and white flag of Earth, a small symbol that had caused so much trouble across the galaxy. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. 12 alien beings sat in a wide circle, each representing their species in the Galactic Council. At the center, Speaker Vexthara rose from her seat. The insectoid alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, her forearms moving in what Jake had learned was a gesture of authority among her people. "Human Morrison," she said, her voice buzzing through the translation device. "You stand before this council to receive our final judgment." Jake stepped into the center of the circle. The other council members watched him with various expressions. Some showed curiosity, others displayed what might have been fear. The Zephyrian delegate kept his 3 eyes fixed on Jake's hands, as if expecting the human to pull out a weapon. "We are listening," Jake replied simply. Vexthara's mandibles clicked together. "For 200 years, your species has ignored our laws. You expand into systems without permission. You build colonies where you please. You offer protection to lesser species who should bow to their betters." The Altarian delegate, a blue-skinned being with gills on his neck, leaned forward. "Your people steal trade routes that belong to established civilizations. You teach primitive species to resist their natural rulers." Jake remained silent. He had heard these complaints many times before. The truth was simple. Humans refused to ask permission to exist. When they found empty systems, they settled them. When they met smaller species being bullied by larger ones, they offered help. This apparently made them dangerous criminals in the eyes of the Galactic Council. 300 systems now fly human flags, continued Vexthara. 300 worlds that should acknowledge Council authority. Your expansion must stop. The Corvin delegate, a massive bear-like creature covered in gray fur, stood up. His species was known for their military strength. "We have been patient with your kind human, perhaps too patient. You ignore treaties signed by every civilized species in the galaxy." Jake finally spoke. "Treaties we never agreed to. Laws we had no part in making. You created your rules before we reached the stars. Why should we follow them now?" A low growl came from the Corvin. "Because we say so. Because we have the power to enforce our will." "Is that a threat?" Jake asked. Vexthara raised one of her arms. "It is a statement of fact. This council represents the combined military might of 12 major civilizations. Our fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Your entire species barely controls a few hundred ships." The chamber fell quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Through the transparent walls, he could see the stars beyond, cold and distant. Somewhere among those points of light lay Earth, humanity's homeworld, and all the colonies they had worked so hard to build. "Here are our terms," Vexthara continued. "Humanity will cease all expansion immediately. You will surrender control of your colonial worlds to proper council authority. Your military will be reduced to a small defense force for your home system. Only, you will pay reparations for the damage caused by your illegal activities." The Altarian delegate added, "Your species will be granted protected status under council law. You will be fed, housed, and cared for, but you will no longer make decisions about your own future. This is generous considering your crimes." Jake felt a cold anger building in his chest. They were talking about putting humanity in a cage, treating them like pets or prisoners. Every human colony, every ship, every dream of reaching the stars would be handed over to aliens who thought they knew better. "You have 1 standard galactic year to comply," said Vexthara. "If you refuse, the Council will take action to protect galactic stability." Your species will be removed from space by force if necessary. The Corvin delegate's eyes gleamed. We have done this before, human. The Centauri tried to resist us 50 years ago. Their worlds are now mining colonies for our benefit. A few survivors work in our factories and are grateful for the chance to serve their betters. Jake thought about Captain Lisa Bennett, commanding her ship somewhere in the outer systems. He thought about Admiral Paul Rodriguez, preparing Earth's defenses. He thought about President Helen Carter, who had trusted him to represent humanity in these talks. Most of all, he thought about the millions of human families living on distant worlds, building new lives among the stars. I need to discuss this with my government, Jake said. There is nothing to discuss, replied Vextara. These terms are final. Accept them or face the consequences. The other council members nodded agreement. The Thraxian delegate, a reptilian, being with scales that changed color with his emotions, spoke for the first time. My people have ships positioned throughout this sector. We are prepared to blockade human systems if needed. Jake looked around the circle of alien faces. Some seemed eager for war. Others appeared resigned to it. None showed any sign of doubt about their decision. They truly believed humanity would surrender rather than fight impossible odds. Very well, Jake said. I will deliver your message. To my government. Excellent, said Vextara. Perhaps your leaders are wiser than we expected. The council has no desire for unnecessary bloodshed. Jake turned toward the chamber doors, then stopped. Something in the tone of Vexthara's voice, the assumption that humans would simply give up everything they had worked for, sparked something deep inside him. He faced the council again. I have a message of my own to deliver, he said quietly. The council members looked surprised. The Corvin delegate tilted his massive head. What message? Jake's voice remained calm, but his words carried the weight. Of 2 centuries of human struggle, we reject your ultimatum. Furthermore, we extend our protection to any species who wishes to stand with us against tyranny. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several delegates stood up, their alien expressions showing disbelief. Vexthara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You cannot be serious, she said. You would choose war against overwhelming odds? Jake smiled, and somehow that human expression seemed more frightening to the aliens than any weapon could have been. Your worlds will learn what happens when you threaten the children of Earth. He walked toward the exit as the council members shouted behind him. Some called him insane. Others demanded he reconsider. The Corvin delegate roared something about crushing human arrogance. Jake ignored them all as the chamber doors closed. Behind him, Jake activated his communication device. The message would travel through space to Earth, where President Carter and her advisors waited for news. It was simple and direct. They want us to surrender everything. I told them no. Prepare for war. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison delivered humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. Captain Steve Parker sat in the command chair of his ship, the U.E.'s Defiance, watching alien patrol routes through the darkness of space. His vessel moved like a ghost through Council territory, invisible to their sensors and recording everything. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments. Lieutenant Amy Foster worked at the scanning station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. Another supply convoy heading toward the Altarian border, she reported. 40 ships carrying weapons and military equipment. Steve nodded. Mark it on the tactical map. How many does that make this week? 17 convoys so far, Amy replied. They are moving a lot of equipment toward human space. Steve had been running reconnaissance missions for 2 months now. His orders were simple: learn everything possible about Council military movements without being detected. The Defiance used technology that made human ships nearly impossible to spot. While Council forces prepared for war, they had no idea humans were watching their every move. On Mars, Dr. Amy Collins stood in her laboratory, surrounded by glowing displays and humming machinery. She had not slept properly in weeks. Her team worked around the clock, developing new weapons for the coming war. The breakthrough had come just yesterday. Plasma artillery that could burn through any known alien shield. "Run the test again," she told her assistant, Dr. Ken Wright. "I want to be sure the power output is stable." The weapon fired with a brilliant flash of blue light. The target, a section of Corvin battle armor, simply vanished. Not destroyed or melted, completely gone. Turned into superheated gas in less than a second. "Output is steady at maximum range," Ken reported. "The plasma stream maintains coherence for over 10,000 kilometers." Amy smiled for the first time in days. "Then we have our answer to their superior numbers. Quality over quantity." She activated her communication system and sent an encrypted message to Admiral Paul Rodriguez. "Package ready for delivery. Production can begin immediately." On the colony world of New Texas, General Chris Rodriguez watched as the last civilian transport lifted off from the spaceport. The evacuation had taken weeks, but every non-essential person was now safely relocated to more secure systems. What remained behind was a fortress. "Perimeter defenses are online," reported Colonel Danny Martinez. "Missile batteries hidden in the old grain silos. Particle beam arrays disguised as water processing plants. If they come here looking for farmers, they are going to get a very big surprise." Chris walked to the command center windows and looked out at the rolling plains. To any casual observer, New Texas still looked like an agricultural world. Farmhouses dotted the landscape, and fields of crops swayed in the breeze. What the aliens could not see were the underground bunkers, hidden weapons, and the fact that every farmer was actually a trained soldier. "What about the other colonies?" Chris asked. "Same story everywhere," Danny replied. "New California has turned their mining equipment into weapon manufacturing plants. The colonists on Frontier Station have converted their asteroid processing facility into a ship construction yard. Every human settlement is becoming a military base." This was humanity's greatest advantage, adaptability. While the aliens prepared for conventional warfare, humans were preparing for something completely different. They would not line up their ships and fight according to galactic military tradition. They would fight dirty, smart, and with complete disregard for the rules. Commander Ryan Bell led his strike team through the corridors of a council supply depot near the border. The facility was supposed to be heavily guarded, but human intelligence had identified a weakness in their security rotation. Now Ryan and his 12 soldiers moved through the station like shadows. "Charges placed on the main reactor," whispered Sergeant Kate Wilson through the communication system. "Backup power systems rigged to overload. This place will be dark for months." "Copy that," Ryan replied. "Lisa, what is the status on the weapon storage?" Corporal Lisa Adams' voice crackled. "Back. Every missile warhead has been tagged with tracking devices. When they try to use them, we will know exactly where their ships are." Ryan smiled in the darkness. The aliens thought they were preparing for war by stockpiling weapons and moving fleets. They had no idea that humans had been inside their supply lines from the beginning, watching, learning, and preparing nasty surprises. "All teams. Extraction in 30 seconds, he ordered. They left the depot exactly as they found it, except for the hidden modifications that would cause chaos when the shooting started. The aliens would never know what hit them until it was far too late. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter stood in the war room deep beneath the Capitol. Holographic displays showed the positions of every known alien fleet, human ship, and colony world. The picture was not encouraging from a numbers standpoint. The Council forces outnumbered humanity by more than 20 to 1. Their main battle fleet is assembling at Vega Station, reported Admiral Paul Rodriguez. Intelligence estimates over 10,000 ships from 12 different species. They plan to hit our outer colonies first, then work their way toward Earth. Our fleet strength? Helen asked. 437 combat vessels, plus about 200 support ships. Not nearly enough for a conventional engagement. Helen nodded. She had expected this. Humanity had always been outnumbered in space. But they had other advantages the aliens did not understand. What about our special projects? Paul smiled grimly. Dr. Collins' new weapons are entering mass production. General Rodriguez reports all colony worlds are ready for siege warfare. Commander Bell's infiltration teams have compromised over 60% of their supply network. And the other species? 15 smaller civilizations have already requested human protection. They are tired of being bullied by council members. If we can prove we can protect them, more will join us. Helen walked to the large window overlooking the city. Millions of people went about their daily lives, unaware that war was coming. Soon, human families across the galaxy would be fighting for their survival against overwhelming odds. Admiral, send a message to all fleet commanders. Tell them the enemy is coming, and they should be ready for anything. Also send word to our allies. When the fighting starts, we will remember who stood with us. Yes, Madam President, Paul replied as night fell over Earth. Similar scenes played out on human worlds throughout the galaxy. Soldiers checked their weapons, engineers tested new equipment, and families said goodbye to loved ones heading off. To war. The Council believed they were facing a small, weak species that would surrender after the first battle. They were about to learn how wrong they were in space. Captain Steve Parker watched as the alien fleet began moving toward human territory. 10,000 ships in perfect formation, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They looked unstoppable. Steve activated his communication system. All reconnaissance units, this is Defiance. The enemy is moving. Time to go home and get ready for the party. The real war was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Zefter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the green world of Eden Prime grow larger on the viewing screen. The Altarian commander felt confident as he surveyed his invasion force. 3,000 ships from 6 different species moved in perfect formation toward the human colony. This would be an easy victory. All ships report ready for orbital bombardment, announced his tactical officer. The human settlement appears to be undefended. Our sensors detect only agricultural facilities and civilian structures. Zefter nodded his blue-scaled head. Begin the attack. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Council. The first wave of missiles streaked toward Eden Prime's surface. They were supposed to destroy the colony's communication centers and any hidden weapons. Instead, something impossible happened. The peaceful farmland erupted in defensive fire that lit up the sky like a deadly fireworks display what the aliens had thought were grain. Silos opened up to reveal massive missile batteries. Farmhouses split apart to expose particle beam arrays that could cut through starship armor. The entire colony had been one giant deception. A military fortress disguised as a farming community. Captain Danny Foster watched from his command center, hidden inside Eden Prime's largest moon. His space station had been built in secret over the past 2 years, invisible to alien sensors and armed with weapons that could destroy capital ships. He had been waiting for this moment. All defensive platforms are online, reported Lieutenant Mike Stevens from the weapons station. Enemy fleet is moving into optimal firing range. Danny activated the communication system that connected him to every human unit in the system. All stations, this is Moonbase Command. The aliens wanted a war. Let us give them one they will never forget. The hidden lunar base opened fire with everything it had. Plasma cannons that Dr. Amy Collins had designed turned alien battleships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. Missile volleys from the surface installations overwhelmed enemy shields and tore through their hulls. In the first minute of combat, over 200 alien ships simply ceased to exist. Admiral Zefter stared in shock as his fleet fell apart around him. Impossible. Our intelligence said this was a farming world. His tactical officer's voice shook with fear. Sir, we are detecting massive power signatures from the planet's surface. These are not agricultural facilities. They are military installations designed to look like farms. Another wave of human missiles slammed into the alien formation. Unlike traditional weapons that exploded on impact, these new devices burrowed through ship hulls and detonated inside. Entire vessels broke apart from internal explosions as their own fuel and ammunition stores were ignited. Retreat. All ships retreat. Zeftar ordered, but it was already too late for most of his fleet. On the surface, Colonel Maria Santos emerged from hidden bunkers with her ground forces. She had been waiting underground for 3 months, ready for this moment. Her soldiers. War armor painted to look like farm equipment from a distance, but up close it was clearly military hardware designed for serious combat. Enemy landing craft detected in Sector 7, reported Sergeant Tom Bradley. Looks like about 500 alien troops heading for the main settlement. Maria smiled grimly. Let them come. They think they are attacking farmers, but they are about to meet the Earth Defense Corps. The alien ground forces landed, expecting to face terrified civilians. Instead, they found themselves in a carefully prepared killing ground. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every road was mined. Every field contained hidden weapons that could appear from underground at a moment's notice. Captain Jerry Kane led a squad of Marines in power armor through what looked like a cornfield. When the alien soldiers approached, the corn plants revealed themselves to be camouflaged missile launchers. The invaders found themselves under attack from directions they never saw coming. The battle for Eden. Primed surface lasted less than 2 hours. Human forces used tactics that no alien military had ever encountered. When conventional weapons failed, they resorted to improvised explosives and close-quarters combat that turned every room into a nightmare for the invaders. Sarah Moore commanded a team that specialized in boarding enemy ships. They did not try to capture the vessels. Their job was to plant fusion charges and escape before detonation. It was dangerous work, but it was also devastatingly effective. Planting charges on the enemy flagship's reactor core, Sarah reported as her team moved through alien corridors. Estimate 3 minutes until overload. The Altarian crew had no idea humans were aboard their ship until it was too late. They were trained to fight other aliens who followed galactic rules of warfare. Humans ignored those rules completely and fought with a brutality that shocked their enemies in space. The alien fleet tried desperately to reorganize and retreat, but Captain Danny Foster's lunar base had one more surprise. Hidden missile platforms throughout the asteroid belt opened fire simultaneously, catching the fleeing ships in a crossfire that destroyed hundreds more vessels. Dr. Amy Collins' plasma weapons proved even more effective than she had hoped. The energy beams did not just pierce alien shields. They overloaded the power systems and caused chain reactions that spread from ship to ship. When one vessel exploded, the energy release damaged nearby craft and made them easier targets. The surviving alien commanders could not understand what they were seeing. Human weapons seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Human tactics made no sense according to military doctrine. Human soldiers fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Admiral Zefter's flagship shuddered as internal explosions tore through its hull. Lieutenant Sarah Moore's team had completed their mission and escaped, leaving behind enough explosives to cripple a ship 10 times larger. "Damage report," Zefter shouted. "Reactor core is failing. Life support systems compromised. We have hull breaches on 17 decks." His engineering officer replied in panic. Around them, the remains of the invasion fleet struggled to escape human space. Of the 3,000 ships that had attacked Eden Prime, fewer than 800 were still functional. Many of those were badly damaged and barely able to maintain power. Captain Danny Foster opened a communication channel to the retreating aliens. His voice was calm and professional, which somehow made his words more terrifying than any threat could have been. "This is Commander Foster of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission and attacked our civilians. We consider this an act of war. Any alien vessel that does not immediately leave our territory will be destroyed. You have been warned." The surviving ships fled toward Council space, carrying with them news that would shock the entire galaxy. The humans were not the weak species the Council had expected. They were something far more dangerous, an enemy that fought with intelligence, courage, and complete disregard for impossible odds. Admiral Zefter sat in his damaged command chair. As his ship limped away from the battle zone, he knew his career was over, but that was the least of his problems. Somehow, he had to explain to the Galactic Council how 3,000 ships had been defeated by what was supposed to be a defenseless, farming world. The war had begun, and humanity had drawn first blood. 6 months after the disaster at Eden Prime, Captain Tony Mitchell guided his strike ship through the darkness between stars. His target was a Corvin military supply, Depot 3 systems deep into Council territory. The massive bear-like aliens thought their homeworld was safe from human attack. They were about to learn otherwise. "Depot in sight," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Beth Cooper. 18 ships on patrol, but they are following predictable patterns. We can slip past them. Tony nodded. Human forces had abandoned defensive positions completely. Instead of waiting for the next alien attack, they had taken the war directly to their enemies. Every Council world now lived in fear of human raids that could appear anywhere, anytime. The UE Shadow moved like a ghost through the Corvin patrol lines. Human stealth technology had improved dramatically since the war began. Ships could now remain invisible, even when firing weapons, appearing just long enough to strike before vanishing again into empty space. "Target acquired," announced Weapons Officer Jack Peterson. "Military storage facility with enough supplies to support a major offensive. Shall I destroy it?" "Negative," Tony replied. "We are not here to destroy their supplies. We are here to make them useless." His team of specialists went to work with practiced efficiency. Instead of blowing up the depot, they planted devices that would contaminate the stored weapons and food. When the Corvins tried to use their supplies, they would find that nothing worked properly. Missiles would explode in their own launch tubes. Food would make soldiers sick. Equipment would fail at critical moments. This was the new human. Strategy: make the cost of war unbearable. Every alien world that supported the Council found their military capabilities slowly falling apart from sabotage and technical failures that seemed like accidents. Admiral Paul Rodriguez stood in his command center on the captured alien world of Kepler 7. What had once been a Council military base was now a forward operating post for human forces. From here, he coordinated attacks across a dozen enemy systems. "Intelligence reports from all sectors," announced Colonel Kate Williams. "The Altarians have lost 60% of their fleet to our raids. The Thraxians are pulling ships back to defend their homeworld. 3 minor species have requested separate peace negotiations." Paul studied the tactical displays showing human operations throughout Council space. Red dots marked successful raids, blue dots showed ongoing missions, and green dots indicated new targets being prepared for attack. The map looked like a virus spreading through alien territory. "What about the Corvins?" he asked. "Still fighting, but their supply lines are completely compromised. Our sabotage teams have hit 47 of their major facilities. They cannot maintain their fleet much longer." This was exactly what Paul had hoped for. Humans could not match alien numbers in a straight fight, but they could make it impossible for the aliens to use their advantages. Every enemy ship that broke down was one less threat to human colonies. Senator Kevin Wright walked through the corridors of the space station, orbiting his homeworld. The slender, pale alien had made a decision that would change everything. His people, the Centaurians, were withdrawing from the Galactic Council and requesting human protection. "The Council will call us traitors," said his aide, a younger Centaurian, named Zara Nash. "They might attack us for breaking our alliance." Kevin stopped at a window overlooking his planet's surface. Below, Centaurian cities sparkled in the sunlight. His people had lived in fear of larger, more aggressive species for generations. The Council claimed to protect them, but in reality, they were little more than slaves to their stronger neighbors. "Let them call us what they want," Kevin replied. "The humans have proven they can defeat Council forces. More importantly, they actually keep their promises to protect smaller species." He activated his communication system and sent a message that would reach human command within hours. "This is Senator Wright of the Centaurian Republic. We formally request withdrawal from the Galactic Council and ask for human protection under the terms offered by Ambassador Morrison." On Mars, Dr. Amy Collins worked on her latest creation. The plasma weapons had been so successful that she was now developing something even more devastating. Self-replicating combat drones that could establish manufacturing bases on dead worlds and produce additional units without any human supervision. "Test Unit 7 is performing perfectly," reported her assistant, Dr. Ben Taylor. It landed on the asteroid, set up a basic factory, and produced 12 more drones in 6 hours. Amy watched the drone swarm through the laboratory's viewing screen. Each unit was no larger than a human fighter craft, but they could work together to take down ships hundreds of times their size. More importantly, they could multiply faster than the aliens could destroy them. "Begin mass production," she ordered. "I want 1,000 seed units ready for deployment within the month." These automated systems would change the balance of power completely. Human forces operating far from Earth would never run out of supplies or reinforcements. The aliens faced an enemy that grew stronger with each passing day. Commander Julie Hansen crept through the ventilation shafts of the Galactic Military Academy on Vega Prime. Her mission was not to destroy the facility, but to plant evidence that would tear the Council apart from within. Intelligence had provided her with fabricated documents suggesting that several member species were planning to betray their allies. "Security checkpoint ahead," whispered her team member Sergeant Mike Davis through their communication system. 2 guards, but they are not paying attention. Julie slipped past the guards and into the Academy's main computer system. Within minutes, she had planted files suggesting that the Altarians were secretly negotiating with humans, that the Thraxians planned to abandon their allies, and that the Corvins intended to claim the best territory for themselves after the war. The documents were expertly crafted lies, but they contained just enough truth to seem believable. When alien commanders found them, they would start questioning each other's loyalty. Paranoia and suspicion would do more damage to Council unity than any military assault. "Package delivered," Julie reported. "Extraction in progress." Her team vanished into the night, leaving behind a time bomb of distrust that would explode throughout alien leadership in the coming weeks. The siege of Vega Station began 3 weeks later. The massive space fortress served as military headquarters for the entire Galactic Council. Human forces did not try to capture it through direct assault. Instead, they surrounded it with enough firepower to turn the station into debris. Admiral Paul Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the trapped aliens inside. His message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every council member could hear it. This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. Any attempt to escape or call for reinforcements will result in the immediate destruction of this station and everyone aboard it. Inside Vega Station, panic spread through the alien command structure. The documents Julie Hansen had planted were already causing arguments between different species. Now, faced with human guns pointed at their heads, their unity crumbled completely. Speaker Vexthara sat in her command chamber, watching her military empire fall apart. Reports came in constantly. More worlds defecting to the humans. Supply. Lines under attack. Fleets unable to function due to sabotage and technical failures. How many ships do we have left? She asked her aide. Operational? Maybe 3,000 across all member species. But they are scattered and cannot coordinate effectively. The humans have disrupted our communication networks. Vexthara realized the terrible truth. The Council had lost the war, not through defeat in battle, but through the complete collapse of everything that made their military machine function. The humans had turned their own strengths against them. 20-4 hours remained until the human deadline expired. The council chambers looked very different from the last time Ambassador Jake Morrison had walked through those doors. The 12 seats that once held proud alien leaders now contained prisoners of war, guards from 43 different species that had allied with humanity, stood watch over their former oppressors. Jake entered the chamber wearing the same black uniform with Earth's simple flag, but this time he was not alone. Behind him walked representatives from dozens of worlds that had chosen freedom over council rule. The Centaurians, the Rigelians, the Taosetians, and many others who had found courage to stand against their former masters. Speaker Vexthara sat hunched in her chair, her 4 arms hanging limply at her sides. The proud insectoid who had once delivered ultimatums now looked broken and defeated. Her mandibles clicked nervously as Jake approached the center of the circle. Human Morrison, she said quietly, we surrender unconditionally. Please show mercy to our people. Jake remained standing as he had months ago, but now the power dynamic had completely reversed. The Council's surrender has been received and accepted. However, the terms of peace will not be negotiated here. The Corvin delegate, his gray fur now streaked with premature white from stress, looked up with confusion. What do you mean? We are prepared to discuss any reasonable terms. You misunderstand, Jake replied calmly. This council no longer has the authority to make decisions for anyone. Your authority ended the moment you chose war over diplomacy. A holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. President Helen Carter sat at her desk in the White House on Earth, her expression serious but not unkind. Behind her stood Admiral Paul Rodriguez and General Chris Rodriguez, along with other human military leaders. Members of the former Galactic Council, Helen began. Your governments launched an unprovoked attack against peaceful human colonies. Your fleets threatened innocent civilians. Your leaders spoke of enslaving an entire species. The consequences of those choices are now before you. The Altarian delegate leaned forward desperately. We were following galactic law. We had the right to maintain order. Helen's expression did not change. Laws created without the consent of those governed are not laws. They are the demands of tyrants. Today, those demands end forever. She gestured to someone off-screen, and Admiral Paul Rodriguez stepped forward. The new galactic order will be established on principles of voluntary association and mutual respect. No species may impose its will upon another. No government may claim authority over worlds that did not freely choose to join it. General Chris Rodriguez took his place beside the Admiral. Human forces now control the former Council military. Installations. Your fleets have been disbanded. Your weapons have been confiscated. Any attempt to resume hostilities will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Speaker Vexthara's voice shook with desperation. What about our people? Our homeworlds? Will you destroy us as you threatened? President Carter leaned forward slightly. Despite your crimes, humanity chooses mercy over vengeance. Your worlds will be left in peace if they accept the new order. Your people will be free to live their lives without interference. But your days of bullying smaller species are over forever. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The aliens were not being destroyed or enslaved as they had planned to do to humanity. Instead, they were being given the same choice they had refused to offer others: submit to a more powerful force or face the consequences. Captain Lessa Bennett, now wearing the uniform of an admiral, appeared on the holographic display. She had been promoted after her successful defense of the outer colonies. The Galactic Peace Corps is now operational. Any species facing aggression may request our protection. Human fleets will patrol space lanes to ensure free passage for all peaceful travelers. Senator Kevin Wright stepped forward from among the allied representatives. The Centauring Republic thanks humanity for keeping its promises. Our worlds are now safe from those who would harm us. Similar statements came from representatives of other species who had suffered under Council rule. The Regelians spoke of finally being free from tribute payments. The Taosetians thanked humans for stopping raids against their mining colonies. One by one, the former victims of Council oppression expressed their gratitude to their human protectors. Dr. Amy Collins appeared on the display from her laboratory on Mars. Our new automated defense systems are being deployed throughout Allied space. Any aggressive action against member worlds will trigger an immediate response. The galaxy will know peace because we have the strength to enforce it. The Thraxian delegate, his scales shifting to colors that indicated fear and submission, spoke for the first time since the surrender. How do we know you will not become the same tyrants you replaced? What stops you from ruling the galaxy as we did? President Carter smiled slightly. Because we learned from your mistakes. Power corrupts when it is concentrated in the hands of the few. Our new federation will be governed by representatives chosen by each member world. Humanity will have one vote among many, not supreme authority over all. Jake Morrison finally spoke again. The Council offered us slavery disguised as protection. We offer you freedom disguised as nothing. Choose for yourselves what kind of future you want. Captain. Danny Foster's voice came through the communication system from his command post in the former Council military headquarters. All alien fleets have been processed. Weapons systems disabled, crews returned to their homeworlds. The threat they once represented no longer exists. Commander Julie Hansen reported from intelligence headquarters. Reconstruction efforts are beginning on worlds damaged by the war. Human engineering teams are working alongside local populations to rebuild what was destroyed. No one will be left behind. The transformation was complete. In less than 1 year, humanity had gone from receiving ultimatums to delivering them. But unlike their enemies, humans used their victory to create something better rather than to dominate and oppress. President Carter stood up at her desk, and her image filled the entire chamber. To all species throughout the galaxy, humanity extends an invitation. Join us in building a future where strength protects the weak, where diversity is celebrated, and where no one lives in fear of their neighbors. She paused, looking directly at the camera. But remember this day. Remember what happened when you chose war over peace. Our worlds stand ready to defend the innocent, and those who would harm them will find that their worlds scream in fire. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. The former council members sat in their chairs, no longer leaders, but simply individuals who had learned too late that threatening humanity's children was the worst mistake they could have made. Jake. Morrison turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at Speaker Vexthara. Your people will be allowed to return home, but the galaxy will remember who started this war and who finished it. As he walked toward the exit, Jake could hear the soft conversations beginning behind him. Representatives from dozens of worlds were already planning the new government that would replace the Council's tyranny. It would not be perfect, but it would be better than what came before. Outside the chamber, Admiral Paul Rodriguez waited with a status report. All human forces are standing down from combat operations. The transition to peacekeeping duties is proceeding smoothly. Jake nodded. Any word from the outer colonies? Full production resuming everywhere. The colonists want to get back to building their new lives. Dr. Collins says her automated systems will keep the peace while they focus on more peaceful pursuits. They walked together through corridors that had once echoed with alien threats and human defiance. Now they buzzed with the activity of beings from dozens of worlds working together to create something better. 50 years later, historians would call it the shortest and most decisive war in galactic history. But they would also remember it as the beginning of the longest peace the galaxy had ever known.